Hi guys, welcome back to A Fwazka Talk.
We're here in Portumna at an old Victorian workhouse.
It was built in 1852 and housed around 600 people.
These were the most vulnerable members of society. They were the old, the sick, and the unemployed.
And also people who had no parents and people with no food.
We're here to talk to Pat to tell us more about this amazing place.
Now, Greg and Lily, first of all, let me say you're both very welcome here to the Irish Workhouse Centre in Portumna.
Thank you.
This was an actual workhouse. I hope to God that you're able for the story I'm going to tell you, because it really is a sad story. It's a story of death, of poverty, and of basic cruelty to human beings. What I want to tell you is the origins of the workhouse. You must remember, this is at a time when Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, did not exist. We were not an independent country, we were part of Great Britain, we were under British rule, and basically here what happened was most of the Irish people themselves were just tenant farmers. All the land had been taken from them by the landlord. In our case here, it was the landlord who lived in Portumna Castle. Between 1800 and 1900, the population of Ireland doubled to about 8 million people. At least 2 million of those 8 million people were at or near starvation level, and most of them died. And things were so bad here that they weren't even able sometimes to take them to a graveyard, the cemetery, to bury them. Things began to get so bad that it couldn't be allowed to go on any longer. And they already had this workhouse system in being in England for the lazy and the idle. So they brought a poor law commissioner to examine and to report back to the British government on what could be done with this Irish problem. Okay? Now, he went back and after only a very short time and immediately said, we have no choice but to try and prevent complete mass extinction through starvation and introduce the workhouse system into Ireland. The original workhouses would have been able to cater for up to 1,200 people, and it was able to cater for over 600 people, but there was rarely ever as little as 600 people in it. More like 800, maybe even 900 people just crammed in. This is one of the only ones left in all of Ireland to tell the story that is relatively undamaged. Some people refer to them as poor houses. They were houses for the poor, but it was work. Because when you came in here, you had to work for your bite to eat and your place to lie down. You got no payment. It was an easy institution to run, a cheap system to run, in that all the work was done by the inmates, or paupers as they were known once they came in here. Now, one good thing that came out of this was that each boy and girl up to 16 years of age got 3 hours education each per day. The curriculum was reading, writing, arithmetic, and the principles of Christian religion. The less that died, it suited them, and the more that lived, it was a double-edged sword. The more that lived, the more they had to look after and the more they had to feed here. But at the same time, it would look terrible in the eyes of the world if too many died.
Were there any specific stories recorded from people in this building?
No. You see, a lot of the people who came in here wouldn't have been able to read or write. And basically, nobody was interested in their stories. Here, they were regarded just as a liability on the workhouse system.
Would entire families come to the workhouse?
Entire families had to come here because you were thrown off your land already. You were what was known as evicted. And in other words, what happened was the landlord or his agents came along. You weren't able to afford your bit of rent. The landlord or his agents came along and basically just flattened the house that you were living in, pulled the roof off, which was usually just made of a pile of stones and straw, and you had nowhere else. So you were lucky if you made it here as a family, but you had to come here together.
Would young children be able to play, or what years would they start working?
Children wouldn't really have played as such because their mothers would have been working, and from the moment they were over 2, they were going to school, because when you were over 2, if you were a boy, you went into the boys up to 16, and if you were a girl, you went to the girls up to 16.
Wow, all of the stuff Pat told us were very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know there was so much history here.
Yeah. Well, that's all we can fit in for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we'll see you next week.